My husband secretly changed the digital locks on our vacation home to let his family move in. There is a moment when you realize that your partner views your hard-earned property as a free handout for their relatives. For 5 years, I managed a strict savings plan to purchase a beautiful lakeside cabin, a peaceful sanctuary registered entirely under my name, meant exclusively for our immediate family's weekend getaways. But last Friday afternoon, when I drove up to the cabin with our children for a quiet summer weekend, my digital entry code completely failed. When I checked the smart lock application on my phone, my access had been deleted entirely. Through the front window, I saw my sister-in-law sitting on our sofa, surrounded by her family's luggage. My husband had secretly changed the digital master codes, registered his sister as the primary administrator, and allowed her entire family to move into my property indefinitely. He expected me to accept this breach of trust to keep family harmony, but he completely underestimated what happens when property boundaries are compromised. My name is Clara. I am 36 years old, and I work as a senior property management director for a commercial real estate firm. My daily career involves managing lease compliance, enforcing asset security, and overseeing digital access control systems for large properties. Because of my professional background, I am meticulous about ownership documents, key records, and digital transparency. Before marrying my husband, Kevin, I spent half a decade saving my personal bonuses to purchase a beautiful 3-bedroom lakeside cabin 2 hours outside the city. It was my ultimate achievement. A private, peaceful retreat paid for entirely by my own hard work. The property deed, the title, and the digital utility accounts were all registered exclusively under my maiden name before our marriage. Kevin and I have been married for 3 years now, and while we share our city apartment expenses, the cabin always remained my personal project. Kevin's family, however, has a history of financial instability and a complete lack of boundaries. His sister, Valerie, has moved between 3 different rental properties in the last 2 years due to continuous lease violations and a refusal to maintain regular employment. Whenever Valerie faces a housing issue, she turns to Kevin to solve it, and Kevin's family always expects him to provide a solution using our resources. During a family dinner last month, Valerie began asking detailed questions about my cabin. "Clara, that cabin is just sitting empty during the weekdays," Valerie said, setting her glass down. "With my current lease ending soon, it seems like such a waste for that beautiful space to be vacant. It would be an ideal place for me and my kids to stay long-term while I figure out my next step." I kept my response direct and polite. "Valerie, the cabin is our family's private retreat, and it isn't set up for long-term residential living due to local community guidelines and seasonal utility maintenance. It's not available for relocation." Valerie's expression instantly soured, and she spent the rest of the evening whispering to Kevin on the back patio. I assumed Kevin would respect my decision regarding my independent property, but he chose to prioritize his sister's demands over our marital trust. The situation unfolded last Friday afternoon. The kids were officially out of school for the summer, so I packed our bags, loaded the car, and drove 2 hours to the lake for a relaxing weekend getaway. Kevin told me he had to finish a late project at his office and would drive up separately on Saturday morning. We arrived at the cabin around 4 p.m. I walked up to the front porch, held my hand over the digital touchscreen lock, and entered my standard 5-digit entry PIN. The lock let out a sharp, red flashing error tone. "Access denied." I frowned, thinking I had made a typo. I carefully entered the code a second time. "Access denied." I pulled out my mobile phone and opened the primary smart home security application that controls the cabin's digital locks. The screen displayed a notification that made my heart drop. "Your administrator access has been revoked by the master account." I looked up through the glass panels of the front door and froze. The interior of my cabin looked entirely different. There were cardboard boxes stacked in the hallway, children's toys scattered across the hardwood floor, and Valerie was casually walking out of our primary bedroom holding a basket of our private linens. I knocked loudly on the glass. Valerie walked to the door, looked through the pane, and smoothly turned the deadbolt to open it just a few inches, keeping the security chain attached. "Oh, Clara, you're here," Valerie said, her tone completely casual. "Kevin didn't tell me you were coming up today. We are still in the middle of unpacking." "Valerie, what is going on here? Why are your things in my house, and why is my digital security code completely changed?" I demanded, my professional composure keeping my voice steady. "Kevin handled everything," Valerie shrugged, smiling. "He gave us the master access last night. He said since you only use the place on weekends, it made perfect sense for us to move our family in permanently to save on rent. You'll have to talk to him about the codes." She quietly closed the door and turned the lock, leaving me and my children standing on the porch of my own property. I stood on the porch for 3 minutes, took a deep breath, and allowed my professional training to take over. In a property dispute, you do not argue on a doorstep. You secure your legal documentation and deploy official countermeasures. I walked back to my car, ensured my children were comfortable with their tablets, and called Kevin immediately. "Kevin, I am standing outside the cabin. Valerie is inside, and my digital administrator access has been deleted. Explain this right now." I said. Kevin let out a long, heavy sigh through the receiver. Clara, look, please don't make a scene. Valerie was facing a major housing issue, and as her brother, I couldn't just watch her struggle. I used the master override code from our home office file to update the lock system last night. I registered Valerie's phone as the primary administrator so she could feel secure. We have plenty of space, and we can still use the guest room on weekends. It's a family solution. You had no legal right to alter the security access of a property that belongs solely to me, Kevin, I replied, my voice sounding like pure ice. You bypassed my security files to hand over my asset without my consent. This is a complete breach of our relationship. We are married, Clara. It's a family asset, Kevin argued, his tone becoming defensive. Stop being so corporate about everything. Just go to a hotel for the weekend and let me talk to her tomorrow. I am not going to a hotel. Kevin, I am resolving this immediately, I said, ending the call. I opened my laptop in the front seat of my car and logged into my commercial property portal. Because I am a real estate professional, I had originally registered the smart lock system under a secure corporate enterprise tier using my maiden name, backed by the property's official deed of trust. Kevin had used a local manual override, but he didn't realize that the Enterprise Master Server always retains an unchangeable secondary recovery protocol. I uploaded a digital copy of my pre-marital property deed to the server's security verification portal. Within 15 minutes, the system verified my identity, overrode Kevin's manual adjustments, and restored 100% of the digital administration rights exclusively to my device, completely deleting Valerie's profile from the lock network. With my digital administration completely restored, I used my phone to remotely unlock the front deadbolt. I walked inside the cabin, bypassed Valerie completely, and carried our personal luggage into the kitchen. Valerie marched out of the living room, her face red with anger as her phone began buzzing with security alert notifications. What did you just do? My app says my access has been terminated. You can't just change things while my children are living here. Your children are not living here, Valerie, I said calmly, placing my phone on the counter. This property belongs exclusively to me. Kevin had no authority to grant you residency. I am giving you exactly 2 hours to pack your bags and exit this house. Valerie immediately called Kevin on speakerphone, crying into the receiver. Kevin, Clara is here. She shut off my app and she's telling us to leave. You told me this place was ours now. Clara, stop this right now, Kevin shouted through the phone. You are embarrassing my family. I told you we would discuss this tomorrow. There is nothing to discuss, Kevin, I said directly into the speaker. Your sister has 2 hours to leave. If she is still inside my independent property past 6:30 p.m., I will contact the local sheriff's department, present my clean property deed, and request a formal removal for unauthorized occupancy. And as for you, do not drive up here tomorrow. Your access to this property is permanently revoked. I ended the call, sat at the kitchen table, and watched the clock. Valerie looked at my steady demeanor, realized that her brother had no actual legal power to protect her unauthorized move-in, and frantically began packing her clothes back into her boxes. By 6:15 p.m., she and her family had loaded their vehicle and driven away from the lakefront, leaving the cabin empty. The following week turned into an absolute storm of family text messages and phone calls. Kevin's extended family sent numerous messages, accusing me of being unsupportive, cold-hearted, and obsessed with legalities over family unity. Kevin arrived back at our city apartment on Monday evening, attempting to minimize the situation. Clara, you completely overreacted. It was just a temporary housing solution. You made my sister feel like a stranger. She is a stranger to my property, Kevin, I replied, placing a folder of documents on the coffee table. You went into my personal files, compromised my security access, and attempted to hand over an asset I spent 5 years earning before I ever met you. You proved that you do not respect my boundaries, my hard work, or my career. Inside the folder was a formal separation agreement drawn up by my legal counsel. Because the vacation cabin was acquired entirely prior to our marriage and maintained with separate funds, my attorney ensured it was fully protected from any marital division claims. Furthermore, because Kevin had deliberately misappropriated my personal security data to alter the property's access, my lawyer used the system access logs as clear evidence of a total breach of trust. Kevin looked at the legal documents, the realization of his actions finally hitting him. He thought he could use his wife's success to look generous to his family, and instead, his actions had completely fractured his own marriage. It has been 4 months since that Friday afternoon at the lake. The separation has been finalized smoothly, and our independent financial boundaries have been legally secured. Kevin is currently renting a small apartment near his office, fully responsible for his own financial choices, while Valerie had to find a regular rental unit with proper employment verification. They wanted to use my vacation home as an easy shortcut to avoid responsibility, and instead, they learned that real security cannot be stolen or compromised through shortcuts. As for me, the transformation has been peaceful. Yesterday afternoon, I drove up to the lakeside cabin with my children for a beautiful summer weekend. The sun was setting over the water, casting a warm golden glow across the front porch. I walked up to the front door, placed my hand over the digital touchscreen lock, and entered my secure code. The mechanism turned smoothly with a satisfying green light. Inside, the house was immaculate, peaceful, and entirely ours. I unpacked our bags, made a fresh pot of tea, and sat on the back deck watching my kids play by the shore. I lost a partner who chose deception over respect, but I protected my integrity. my financial independence, and my sanctuary. I learned that true family doesn't demand that you compromise your boundaries. True family respects your hard work and supports your peace. I took my power back, updated my digital security, and opened the door to a completely stable, independent future.